Did you know that the government will literally give you a $5,000 marketing credit each year? And all you have to do is just qualify for a weird loophole in the tax code, which is super simple, by the way. And this is a total game changer for every chiropractic office. Now, maybe you're thinking, hey, this must be illegal or it's complicated, right? Well, look, I thought so too, until I did some more research. It turns out this credit has been hidden in the tax code for over 20 years. Yet most docs don't even know about it because, well, honestly, who reads the tax code? It's thousands of pages of legalese that makes your eyes just glaze over. Well, it turns out I did, and I've been saving my clients thousands ever since. Now, please note, there's a classic disclaimer here, but I'm not a tax expert or a legal consultant, so this is not legal advice. So, of course, take this information and talk to your tax advisor, or better yet, let me talk to them. Now, if you have a website for your practice, which of course you do, you've more than likely heard the term of website accessibility. Well, recently, several small businesses have received demand letters and have been sued because their websites don't comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. Now, you're probably wondering, what does accessibility actually mean? Now, accessibility refers to your website being coded to be read by screen readers and then to be used by people with various disabilities. The World Wide Web Consortium's W3C most recent web content accessibility guidelines are known as the WCAG 2.1. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. Now, making a website that's accessible to all takes time and money, which has deterred many people from really pulling the trigger to make their website accessible. But with this recent incentive from the IRS, now is the time. Under the IRS Code Section 44, the Disabled Access Credit, businesses who make accommodations that make their website accessible to people with disabilities can now qualify for a $5,000 tax credit. Eligible businesses can claim the credit using the Disabled Access Credit on IRS Form 8826. This new tax credit is available to those qualified in the amount of 50% of eligible expenditures that exceed $250 but don't exceed $10,250 for a taxable year, for a max credit of $5,000. Now, I know you're probably wondering, well, what does this have to do with me? Well, if you're a local small business owner, which you are, of course, according to the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, your business can be eligible for the tax credit only if you had $1 million or less in gross receipts for the last year, or you had 30 or fewer full-time employees during the last year. So it's simple. If you're making under $1 million, you're eligible. Or if you have less than 30 employees, you're eligible. Now, in order to protect your practice from a lawsuit, your website should be evaluated for its accessibility to people with disabilities. It's important to work with a professional company that understands that web content and accessibility guidelines standards and learn for yourself what makes a website code accessible. Now, unfortunately, shortcuts to accessible code, they don't exist. And adding a good faith tool to your website, it's not going to hold up in court. If you're looking for assistance in this review and helping make your website WCAG accessible, our team of programmers is here to help. Hey, we're passionate about making your website accessible, but then also getting you this tax credit. I'm Dr. Steve with Next Level Chiropractor, and we help chiropractors get guaranteed results and grow their practice and take it to the next level. Now, what I want to do is show you a quick rundown of what we're going to be going through today. A quick overview of what website accessibility is and ADA compliance so that you can better understand the current climate from a technical and legal perspective. A quick overview of our solutions and features and the wonderfully simple process of becoming compliant with us. Now, this may take 10 to 20 minutes, but I typically answer all the questions going through this demo. So, what is website accessibility? Well, web accessibility is essentially a set of rules, behaviors, code standards, and design guidelines that were created by the W3C and are called the WCAG 2.1, the Web Content and Accessibility Guidelines. The WCAG is a massive guidebook that encapsulates a range of disabilities that go from hindering internet use to making internet use impossible without adjustments. Now, this spectrum actually compromises 20 to 25% of the general population, depending on if you're going with the CDC or the World Health Organization. Now, there are many disabilities covered, and the primary categories that require attention are blind people who are using screen readers, the motor impaired using only the keyboard to navigate, epilepsy and color blindness, cognitive and learning disabilities, visual impairments, and more. The WCAG at the AA level has been adopted as the global standard for website accessibility, acting as a benchmark in legislation such as the ADA Title III, Section 508, the AODA, and many others. Now, I wish I could tell you that the exponential increase in demand for web accessibility has been a result of everyone coming to understand that business owners and people with disabilities have so much to mutually gain from this endeavor. But frankly, ADA compliance lawsuits are nothing short of an intense rise, 200% year over year, with reports of tens of thousands of demand letters and lawsuits targeting businesses of all sizes. At first, only the largest of enterprises and government institutions were legally pressured to become accessible, which makes sense. Now, one of the most significant shifts in the legal climate was when the DOJ, in the end of 2018, officially affirmed that all websites are considered public accommodations and therefore must comply with this Title III of the ADA. Now, many didn't think for a second that it would ever happen to them, right? But that's just not the case. In fact, 2019 ended up tripling 2018 in the number of papers served. This means that for every business hour in 2019, a business was served for not being website accessible. You also find that in almost every situation, the plaintiff wins the case on the merits because it's strictly a liability law, and judges, they're often understandably sympathetic to people with disabilities who really only want equal rights. There is virtually no chance of winning an ADA case when you're not compliant. The lawyers simply advise their clients to write a check since there's no point in fighting it. A quick example of what's going on here is a visual impaired woman from Broward County, Florida, sued 175 business owners, several of which had to close down as a result. Now, in the 2020 COVID era, we're seeing those in quarantine have less access to physical locations and amenities, and they're finding more difficulty in accessing the web for essential services. Now, what makes the situation even more difficult for business owners are the current alternatives. The current options in the market today are either free or low-cost plugins that really don't provide you more than 10 to 15% of the accessibility you need in order to be compliant. You also have manual accessibility services that bring you up to full compliance, but they cost $20,000 to $40,000 per site. They take several weeks or months to implement, and the worst thing is they're tedious and costly to maintain. Imagine spending all that time and money and coming to understand that every time you want to make a change or a revision to your site, you either have to spend thousands of dollars or sacrifice a significant amount of accessibility that you work so hard to attain. Those options, as you can imagine, leave 99% of business owners without a feasible solution, which makes them easy targets for lawsuits, and really it prevents them from helping people with disabilities. To solve this impossible solution, we created an AI accessibility tool. Our accessibility tool is an AI-powered machine learning software that was developed with the understanding that successfully automating the process creates a simple, immediate, affordable, and compliant solution that serves as a win-win for the business owner and people with disabilities who just want equal access to the internet. Now, taking into consideration our pricing model, which is a fraction of the cost of manual remediation, our solution is not only a no-brainer in comparison to the other alternatives in the market, it actually makes being accessible and compliant a no-brainer in general for the majority of the businesses out there who wouldn't even have a reasonable solution. We've developed our solutions side by side with leading experts in accessibility and assistive technologies in order to ensure the highest success rate in the industry with respect to going above and beyond the standards for compliance. This is evident in the fact that none of our clients have ever received a compliance lawsuit after implementing our solution. Now, it's important to note that one of the legal requirements of being ADA compliant is to have an accessibility statement that highlights your website accessibility. This document on the right is our accessibility statement, which also acts as a certificate of performance. It explains all the adjustments the solution has made to the website, the browser and assistive technology compatibility, and describes how to report feedback. The statement will be personalized to the name of your domain and dated. It'll be available to all users with the interface and sent to you via email within 48 hours from installation, once the AI completes its whole process. The statement will be reinforced with monthly accessibility compliance audits, which can be downloaded and shared as proof of ongoing compliance efforts. I like to think of it as a track record of website compliance. Now, from our experience, business owners have found that the best part of becoming compliant with us is definitely the super simple process. First, you just install a single line of JavaScript code, which takes 5 minutes to install and can integrate with any website or CMS platform. Then, your website instantly displays our accessibility interface that I'll show you in the next slide. Simultaneously, the AI kicks in, and in up to 48 hours, it's finished, and the website is accessible and compliant. This is also when you'll receive your accessibility statement to your email. And our biggest advantage is the automatic maintenance. The AI tool rescans the website every 24 hours, making sure that any changes or additions are also being remediated. Ultimately, after the 5-minute installation, you can forget about all the compliance issues. Everything is done automatically, even for websites that update daily. Okay, so let's dive into the features. We achieve compliance by leveraging 2 components. And the first is our accessibility interface that's responsible for handling the UI, design, and the cognitive related adjustments. This interface is structured by disability profiles and enhancement features. That way, users with different disabilities can simply select the profile that best suits their needs. Among these profiles, you'll find an epilepsy-safe profile, a visually impaired profile, cognitive disability profile, and an ADHD-friendly profile. This interface is also fully customizable and can be fitted to your website's brand and design. The second is our AI machine learning powered process that handles keyboard navigation adjustments for the motor impaired and blind people's screen readers. A screen reader is a software that's used by blind people to operate computers and websites, and it's installed on the operating system. It basically reads aloud the content focused on the screen, and it also helps with navigation and orientation aspects. Adjustments to those screen readers are what the legislation requires. We handle all the on-site aspects using a contextual understanding AI technology that is responsible for remediating menus, drop-downs, pop-ups, forms, icons, buttons, and all the other elements by applying the appropriate screen reader text and website behaviors. To automatically provide accurate alternative text for images, also known as alt tags, our solution utilizes iris and OCR technologies to scan and learn the objects as well as the text that's embedded within the image. By the way, everything I mentioned is fully supported in 14 different languages. Hey, thanks for joining me here so far, and stick with me here because I'm going to pass it over to Simon, and he's going to show you how all this works on an actual website.
Hi there, Simon again. Thanks again for joining, and on this video we're going to be covering a live features demonstration of our solution. That's going to break down into 2 components. The first is the accessibility interface, or the foreground application, and the second is the background application, which is the AI responsible for keyboard navigation and screen reader adjustments for the motor impaired and fully blind. Now I'm going to open the interface, and one thing I'd like to start off with is saying that the beauty of this accessibility interface is that you do not have to compromise the brand, look, or design of the website in favor of accessibility, because this interface allows users to make adjustments only when needed according to their specific disability. Now, the first part of the interface breaks down into profiles, which optimize for a specific category of a disability. For example, the seizure safe profile. Now, this profile allows for users with epilepsy to stop any moving animations, as well as reducing the color in order to allow for a safe browsing experience. Now, for example, do you see the flickering GIF, the video moving on the bottom right-hand side, as well as the moving animation? When I turn on the seizure safe profile, it stops all the moving content, again allowing for a safe browsing experience while also reducing the colors. The next profile is the visually impaired profile, which enhances the website's visual in order to allow people with specific minor visual impairments to optimize and enhance so that they will be able to see and operate the website in a more user-friendly way. When I turn on the profile, you'll see that the scaling has been increased by 100%. The saturation and contrast has been increased, as well as the fonts that have been changed to the system user's default font, which will be clearly readable to them. Now, this helps for degrading eyesight, tunnel vision, cataracts, glaucoma, and many others. The last two profiles I'll show you here are the cognitive disability profiles and the ADHD friendly profile. Starting with the cognitive disability profile, which highlights all of the links, menu items, and titles, allowing for more focus and assists with reading experience. If you take a look, all of the animations have stopped as well, again allowing for a more focused experience. You have the ADHD profile, which gives you a reading mask allowing for fewer distraction by again stopping all of the animations and moving content, increasing the saturation, allowing for a more focused browsing experience with fewer distractions. The last two profiles, as you see here, are for blind users and keyboard navigation for the motor impaired, which are not really going to be used on the interface. They're really more there for showing purposes. Of course, all of these profiles can be enhanced manually and customly by an interface that allows you to increase scaling, make the font more readable, highlight titles, links, increase font size, alignment, letter spacing, and for impairments such as cataracts, glaucoma, or color blindness, you have the option to change to a dark contrast, a monochrome scheme, and depending on the severity of the situation, change specific text, title, and background colors in order to optimize for your specific browsing experience. The last thing I'm going to show you on this interface, which has over 75 other features, is the Cognitive and Learning Glossary, which allows users to look up and understand certain terms and phrases like binge watching. Great. Now that we covered this, let's get into the back-end application, which, as mentioned before, mostly relates to keyboard navigation and screen reader adjustments for the motor impaired and the fully blind. The way that we activate this new layer of accessibility, which we like to call accessible mode, is by specific functions. For example, a motor impaired user that uses the keyboard to navigate, more specifically the tab key, which is the universal key for keyboard navigation, will be able to tab through the site and automatically turn on accessible mode, which makes the necessary adjustments. A blind user will get an announcement directly to their screen reader, whether it be JAWS, NVDA, or any other screen reader, and the announcement will be to press Alt-1 in order to activate screen reader and keyboard navigation adjustments. Now, I just press Alt-1, which allows me to get into accessible mode. And when I first start to navigate, I see an accessible navigation menu, which allows me to browse between all of the clickable content on the site. or simply press Tab to skip through. Now you see all of the icons, search bars, menus, access to drop-down menus as well. When triggering open pop-ups, the keyboard focus lifts and lands on the pop-up, allowing for you to continue navigating, or press Escape to continue from where you left off. You also have the ability to navigate through sliders, and as you see, all of the menus, forms, icons, and all of the more complex parts of web accessibility are things that our solution excels in remediating. The last part I want to show you here is the image recognition technology, which I think is very, very exciting. And in order to do that, I'll go ahead and reset the settings one more time. For this, I'm going to have to inspect the console and show you a couple of elements before accessible mode is turned on, and of course, once it is already on. If you take a look at the console, and I just inspected the GIF over here that says traveling, shopping, 15% off, you see that there's no label, there's no description for the image, and the text that's embedded within the image has not been converted into screen reader text for this image as well. Or perhaps the Facebook icon, or the favorites button. I'll show you one more image for good measure. And now I'd like you to see what happens when I activate accessibility mode, again, as mentioned, by pressing Alt-1. I hope you're able to see the code changing live, and let's re-inspect the element one more time. As you see, the alt using image recognition technology has been provided, in this case, women in shorts standing on gray concrete floor near body of water during daytime. Or for the GIF, where you have the image recognition technology that is describing wood, retro, and luggage, as well as the optical character recognition deriving the text embedded within the image to say travel, shopping, 50% off, just like it is on the image. As you see here, again, a fully labeled description and deriving the text embedded within the image. I want to show you some of the icons and other items, like the Facebook icon, which is assigned a new window and Facebook attributes, as you see here. Or this heart, where using contextual understanding AI and how our technology compares elements on your site to hundreds of millions of data sets and tens of thousands of websites, knows that this is not just a heart. It is, in fact, a favorites. Great. Now, that about sums it up. I really appreciate you joining us today. Take care now.
And now you see how this works and how we can help you get your website more accessible, but then also get it legal and compliant. And also on top of that, get a $5,000 tax credit. So do this. If you haven't already, click the link below, schedule a call with us. Let's go over a plan to get this implemented on your website, get you on your way to being more compliant, helping people with disabilities, and get that tax credit as well. I'm Dr. Steve, the Next Level Chiropractor, and I look forward to helping you take your practice to the next level.